Many fans of the sport were keen to know whether Lewis Hamilton would be extending his stay with Mercedes or even in the sport of Formula One, for that matter. And as we now head into the Singapore Grand Prix with Lewis fresh off signing on the dotted line to further his stay with the Silver Arrows till the end of the 2025 season, many people are wondering what could have been his motivation to do so, and why did the negotiations take so long? Well, you've come to the right video to find out. So, without further ado, let's get started. Stefano Domenicali, the CEO of Formula One, firmly believes that Lewis Hamilton's decision to ink a fresh 2-year contract with Mercedes boils down to his determination to pursue an unprecedented 8th World Championship title and potentially disrupt Max Verstappen's reign. Hamilton's contract negotiations lingered for almost a year following their initial discussions. The prolonged contract negotiations raised doubts about whether the British racing icon would ever commit or consider an early retirement from his illustrious career. However, Hamilton quashed these concerns just ahead of the Italian Grand Prix when he officially signed a new 2-year deal. Even more intriguingly, the 38-year-old hinted that this might not be his final contract in Formula One, as his motivation remains as fervent as ever. This determination has faced scrutiny ever since he narrowly lost the 2021 World Championship to Verstappen in a thrilling showdown. In the aftermath of that dramatic season, Red Bull has surged to the forefront of the sport, while Mercedes has grappled with the challenge of developing a competitive concept. Hamilton is currently experiencing the lengthiest winless streak of his Formula One career, stretching back to the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Domenicali is of the opinion that Hamilton's commitment to the sport for at least another 2 years is a clear indication of his readiness to persistently contend at the front of the grid, provided he has a car capable of doing so. "I am very happy with Lewis' decision," said Domenicali. "He is an extraordinary driver, and I believe he has only one objective today, his 8th world title. I'm sure he feels in great shape. He has a lot of confidence in the team and, from a sporting point of view, it's nice to know he's there." Furthermore, Lewis has been able to connect Formula One with very different worlds, which is undoubtedly positive news for Formula One as a whole. Mercedes' focus has now switched to the 2024 season, where they're hopeful of closing the gap to Red Bull. "The sails are set for 2024, Toto Wolff explained last month. Now, with the car development almost stopped for this year, I find it good because there is so much we can optimize on the current car without looking too much into upgrades. Let's see how we can really get it into more of a sweet spot while gaining more understanding for next year." Speaking of Toto Wolff, the discussions between the Austrian team boss and Hamilton's team extended for months, resulting in a deal that took longer than anticipated to reach its conclusion. Consequently, Nico Rosberg, his former driver, believes that Wolff will likely breathe a sigh of relief now that it's finally been sealed. "I think just stability, calmness, because it always leads to uncertainty, even in the leadership. Lewis is not signed yet," he told Sky Sports. "It puts stress. Stress because what if Lewis suddenly decides, I actually prefer to go surfing at the beach? That would be a big problem then. So it does put stress, especially probably on someone like Toto, even though he wouldn't show it because he's an incredibly good negotiator. And pretty cold, but inside it certainly puts stress." Considering that both Hamilton and Wolff openly expressed their eagerness to finalise a deal, it was indeed unexpected that it dragged on for so long. While significant factors such as salary and contract duration are typically the primary points of contention, Wolff has clarified that, in this instant, it was the finer details that contributed to the delay. He said, "Lewis and I were clear on the major terms in June, July. Things were just dribbling along, bubbling along slowly. Then it was summer break. In the end, it was about marketing, not really the big relevant topics. That took a bit of time." This explanation validated a theory put forward by David Coulthard, who had suggested Mercedes will want a certain amount of time from Lewis for their partners. Mercedes will have sold sponsorship on obtaining access to their drivers. Some businesses will have signed up with the Silver Arrows because Lewis is there, rather than George Russell. Perhaps Lewis might be wanting to do fewer days or have fewer commitments. What Lewis will be signing up for goes way beyond him driving at a Grand Prix. It's about what rights he retains in terms of his image and what rights he sells to the team. Mercedes are buying more than just Lewis driving services. They are buying his promotional image and his PR image. And as we head into the Singapore Grand Prix this weekend, a track where the team suits their car's strengths, Toto Wolff would have this to say about the team's chances in Singapore. "We maximised the result in Monza with the package we had," he said. "That will be important across the rest of the season to secure second in the Constructors. At a circuit that didn't necessarily suit the characteristics of our car, we were still competitive. It's encouraging to see that the W14 is performing well across a range of tracks. We've had some time to debrief an intense doubleheader, and we're now heading into another one. Singapore is a unique challenge for every team. The hot and humid conditions are tough on the drivers, team members and the car. It's a bumpy track, and there are some changes to the layout for this year too. It should make the lap more flowing and slightly kinder on the tyres. The battle with our nearest competitors is incredibly close. It's hard to predict just how the order will shake out each weekend. Mercedes has managed to stage a respectable recovery from their performance dip last year and currently envisions themselves securing a strong position in P2 in the Constructors' Championship. Nonetheless, with the resurgence of competitors like Ferrari in recent times, this position may be at risk, causing concern for George Russell. Acknowledging the challenge, as reported by Racing News 365, the Mercedes driver has pledged to defend their position alongside Lewis Hamilton. Undoubtedly, Ferrari staged a remarkable resurgence at the recently concluded Italian Grand Prix. They secured a pole position and clinched a podium finish, amassing a substantial 27 points in the process. In the constructors' standings, the combined efforts of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc propelled Ferrari ahead of Aston Martin, positioning them at P3 and narrowing the gap to the Silver Arrows. With Ferrari demonstrating significant improvements lately, Russell has outlined his objectives for the remainder of the season. He's determined to ensure that his team doesn't falter with 8 races still on the calendar. Speaking on this matter, the 25-year-old expressed, "We're in a pretty comfortable position in P2, but we can't let that slip. The way that I help the team achieve this is if I'm just putting in the consistent and solid results." While P2 in the Constructors' Championship is a step up for Mercedes compared to last year, the team's end goal is undeniably to knock Red Bull off the top step of the podium, considering the Milton Keynes team has won every race this season. Russell would comment on Red Bull's dominance and say, "I think for probably 25 years now, there's always been a team that has dominated during a certain period, so it is definitely a bit of a shame," Russell said, per Planet F1. "You can't take it away from Red Bull. They're obviously doing an amazing job, and you need to give them credit for that. But as I said, it's a shame because the fight for second at the moment between us, McLaren, Aston and Ferrari is actually really exciting. So I don't know how you achieve that in the sport, but that's the goal for sure." Russell recognises the formidable quality of Red Bull and acknowledges that their potential for improvement remains high. Nonetheless, he has managed to draw some encouragement from Formula One's history. I mean, when you look at the turn in form that Aston Martin had over last winter, the turn of form that McLaren has had, that definitely gives optimism that it can happen, the Brit added. Obviously, Red Bull are going to continue to improve. It's going to be difficult for sure, but, we saw Red Bull catch Mercedes in the Mercedes era in 2021, and that was sort of unforeseen, as well as 2020 from Mercedes was a really dominant year. Then, in 2021, Red Bull starts with the quickest car. We'll be pushing for that, but we're not going to put any huge expectations on next year. We will sort of take it race by race, making sure we get all of the right information to make the best decisions possible between now and the Bahrain test next year. So, do you think Hamilton will get his 8th title in the next 2 years? What do you make of Red Bull's complete obliteration of its competitors? Let us know in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't.